What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Real Estate Reserve Podcast. Jason Balin from Hard Money Bankers, Ian Horowitz from Equity Warehouse. Today, we are talking about tech stack for 2025, some of the software tools that we're using inside of our individual businesses. Things are changing. AI has gotten hot. I don't know about you, Ian, but I, for the most part, use something AI inside my business every single day. We have a lot of automation tools that we're doing, and I know we did an episode on this. I think it was last year or the year before, but it would be interesting to kind of compare notes. And I think as real estate investors, entrepreneurs, marketers, small business owners, it's a fun topic to see what people are doing, how they're band-aiding different softwares in their businesses together, because that's typically what's happening is, I use this for this, I use this for this. And, they don't talk through an API or anything. So I got to put Zapier in place to have this, do this, and automation. So yeah, let's get in it. I think this is gonna be a fun topic, huh?
Yeah, I think it'll be a fun topic overall. I think the AI thing is a huge thing that we need to discuss here. But guys, before we do that, if you get any value out of the show, I got a new desk. I'm standing now because I want to be as excited as you are. So if you get any value out of this show, please feel free to share it. We don't care about the likes and subscribes because we haven't really figured out how to do that. So what we do care about is that if you get value, if you can go ahead and share it, because normally we have a guest on here. They're taking time out of their day and they're just a normal person like me and you. So let's give that a share. But with that being said, let's hop right into it. And Jason, honestly, I want to ask you, because I think part of this, my guess, the reason this show came about was because yesterday morning or this morning, we were talking about how you want to develop software for your coaching group and how you think it's really important. And I said, that's crazy because software is the hardest thing to keep up with. That's where we're at today in the market, in the industry. What softwares are you using on an everyday basis? But I guess let me ask it more like this. What software do you rely on the most that you now see an AI feature either taking it over or enhancing it and making your use that much easier?
Yeah, so I think, and I'm going to answer this question in a second, but I think I'm over creating a software. I think it's too challenging. It's ever changing, but more importantly, if you create a software, then you're responsible for that software. And I've tried it multiple times and put 6 figures to it. And it's something that's exciting, but there's a lot of better software companies out there, and let them build the software and develop it. And, you as a user. So overall, what we use the most inside our business is the Google Suite and Google platform for everything. And we've customized it for so many different ways, from Google Sheets to Google Docs to Google Drive. As a lender, we actually don't even have a loan origination software. And I've tried them all. They didn't integrate well inside our operation. I know a lot of lenders have customized stuff and they built stuff, but we'll use Google Sheets for everything. And you'd be surprised. There's automation tools inside that to make your life easy. And inside the Google Suite, we obviously use, Google Sheets kind of for each individual loan. There's calculations in there. There's a lot of different ways to kind of organize stuff. We can print term sheets and loan applications and, funding breakdowns. Everything can be built in there. We utilize that with Google, Docs. And then we also use Google Drive to store documentation and organize it in a manner. And those things have developed into, e-sign is built into some of these platforms now. Everything's integrated into your email, so it makes life easy. And, if you're on, the Google Suite, you also have AI through Gemini. That's their Google AI platform that makes life easy from anywhere as, summarizing emails or summarizing, a document that you might upload onto your Google Drive to, hey, this might be the most common response to an email that you got. So there's a lot of different ways that we integrate with Gmail and the Google, the Google Suite. And I'm guessing, you're probably using something similar for some of that stuff as well.
Yeah. I try to avoid it at all costs. I don't know why. It's just something about it seems like inauthentic. And I guess a lot of it revolves around ChatGPT and people just cheat coding and writing the copy and everything else. But not a software that I use all the time, but an interesting one that I've used recently to rebuild some stuff has been Zapier. And you literally go in there and say, I want to do X. And it makes it, and it does it really quick. And it's like, shit. Like, I used to spend so much time trying to webhook these things and everything else. And now it's stupidly easy, point and click, right? And just watching these softwares grow, it's borderline scary in a way, but I think it's also going to be good. Like, I don't think the AI underwriting tools are there yet, but I do think a lot more data set, a lot more information is coming available. And that's what I'm interested in seeing. I have not really optimized the Gemini inside of Google Suite, but as you were saying that, I'm like, that might be good to start putting notes on some of the documents, because we use Dropbox every day and Dropbox Sign and those types of things. But it's interesting to see where software goes. And what it's going to do for us as a whole, as real estate investors, as business owners. What's it going to do? And this isn't necessarily an AI conversation as much as it's, what softwares we're using. But I think it's interesting to watch how the softwares that you use every day grow and integrate AI. Like, I don't think I actually left Keep recently, Infusionsoft, because I didn't feel like they were keeping up with what the market's doing. And I moved over to Klaviyo, and it has like, hey, if you want to do this, here's all the prompts. And it's like AI generated in a way that it creates the prompts. And I think that's the way of the future. And I think you're going to start seeing tech companies, if they're not keeping up, they're going to fall apart, because the new generation is AI. I think I heard Gary Vee maybe say it. He was like, nobody Google. He's like, hey, who Googles stuff in here? And everybody raised their hand. He's like, who AI, like Chat GPT stuff now? And a couple people rose their hand. He said, that's the future. And that guy's always light years ahead. And it's funny when you go to research stuff, it's like now Google gives you, like I was looking up eminent domain the other day, and it's like, here's all the topics on eminent domain. And you're like, oh, okay. Like, great. Here we go. Like, I understand now what's going on. So it's a thing to say.
And that's through Gemini, though, the AI overview.
Right.
So,
Correct.
I mean, I'm asking, like, when I'm clicking on that, and, I just typed in eminent domain as we're talking, and, eminent domain, power of government, take over private property, blah, 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 blah. Do you need more resources on that? This is generative AI, obviously it says experimental, but it's great. And I think, from some pretty successful people that I talk to on a regular basis, a lot of them use, and we can talk about, content marketing and creating SEO web pages and articles and blog posts and things like that through ChatGPT here in a second. I know that conversation is going to come up, but a lot of them use it as like their in-house research assistant.
Correct.
Find all this information for me, aggregate it, and do whatever. Like, and I used, ChatGPT to create an amortization schedule for me on a Google sheet, and it does it all. I don't even have to open up Google. It opens it. It number one, it created the sheet, or it gave me the formulas where I could input that into Excel or Google Sheet. And, it's one of those things that normally I would just gone to a YouTube video and watched it of how to create that myself, but it created it for me. So it worked. In talking about Zapier, I think that's a very, very important tool for most business owners, because in essence, it connects two different softwares or two different tools. As you were saying, Zapier, I have 19 Zaps. I have like 19 kind of Zapier things of what it does, anywhere from sending a text message out from my Ring Central account when this particular thing happens, to shooting an automated email when this particular thing happens, to, taking a Facebook ads lead form and then putting them into our Infusionsoft setup, right? Because Facebook ads doesn't necessarily integrate with, CRMs and things like that, if you ever use that. So like, I've got lots of them. And one of my favorite things to do is at midnight every night, I actually get, the update of how many Zaps hit that night, that day. I don't know if you have that set up. I've never set it up like that, but that's just the way it is. So like, if I'm up late one night, I see it. If not, it's first thing in the morning. It's one of my first emails. I'm like, this is great. I had 12 leads come in from here. I had 3 text messages go out from this. So it's all automation, and kind of the sky's the limit. Although one thing that does drive me crazy is I cannot zap our podcast into a Facebook group. You can do it to a Facebook page. You can't do it to a Facebook group. Absolutely drives me crazy. I was just on a Zoom meeting with our content manager, and I was like, unfortunately, you're going to have to go back and manually input all these things because it's not integrated.
Yeah, well, and I think there's probably a good reason that some of this stuff isn't integrated. You know, an interesting point that you said is like YouTube is the research. I know we're talking about softwares, but we'll throw websites in there too. Yeah, YouTube is usually 9 times out of 10 where I go to look for stuff, but I do find myself more and more going to ChatGPT or Google and reading the AI for the quick synopsis of something. And I'm finding YouTube's more tactile and content, like just consuming content for me. And I've gotten away from like going there to learn about things per se. And I'm actually doing a little more reading, which is probably good for the soul. But what would be scary is if you went to ChatGPT and you're like, hey, how to be a hard money lender. And then it gave you the written dialogue, but then it automatically created an AI video side by side with that to feed you the content. I mean, that's the scary stuff that could happen here in the future. So I don't know. It's interesting because I think some websites become obsolete. I think some softwares become more and more antiquated and obsolete. And, you know, a lot of people say AI, but it's automations in general, you know, like QuickBooks. That's our go-to every single day. You can create rules. You can have it match journal entries. You can have it do so many things that you can bookkeep in 5 seconds. You know what I mean? It does not take a long time to do tasks. And, you know, what you get to fill your time with is more creative. And I think that's what's important. You know, I'm waiting for you to figure out like Superhuman or one of those to like organize your inbox and continue to aggregate from an AI standpoint there. And I haven't been able to relinquish the control on that one yet.
Well, one of the AI tools that I'm curious to see, I wouldn't necessarily need this in our business. Maybe you could for buying stuff is the AI tool that cold calls calls sellers to book appointments for them. And then after you have an appointment booked, I'm guessing a real human gets on the phone with them and sells them and converts them.
Well, I decided to eat lunch while we're on this podcast because Jason said it'd only be 20 minutes, but I know it's going to turn into an hour.
No, it'll be less. 30 minutes.
I have 2 experiences. Today, I had to buy a pallet jack for our warehouse for something that we're working on. And
what's a pallet jack?
Like the
normal people what that is.
You know, like you put it under the pallet, jack it up, and then you move it, right? A pallet jack. So
That's what that's called?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I've seen those before. I didn't know that it was called a pallet jack. Okay, got it.
Pallet jack. So I had to go get one of them, and I found an ad on Facebook Marketplace. So I responded to it. Immediate response back at like 9:30 last night. Hey, call this number tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. I don't think twice about it. I pick up the phone. I call it. He's like, where are you looking for? And I'm like, man, this guy's like, we got bad English or this is AI. I was like, Plymouth Meeting. And he's like, and I'm like, yo, I bet you this is an AI call. Dude, I legitimately bought a pallet jack. I spent $255 and I did it all AI. This guy had his equipment in a storage facility. You showed up, there was a camera, you had to wave to the camera, you had to pay the guy, show the guy the payment, put it in your car, and you leave. And I was like, oh my God, like, wow, that is like,
how did you pay him?
Venmo, Cash App, or Zelle, right? So
like while you were there?
While I was there, you paid him, you showed it on the camera like this, and it was done. And it was completely automated. And I was like, holy crap, you know, and
wow, that's a great example.
So that's like one story, and I thought that was impressive because this guy's, I don't know how many pallet jacks he's doing a week, but that's like impressive. And then the other thing is my brother's dabbled into wholesaling a little bit, and he's been deep in the game of trying to figure out, how is he going to grow his business and what he wants to do. And he found the AI software that Pace Morby has put his name behind to generate cold calls. He's like, dude, for $500 a month, I can go on Reonomy or one of you, whatever, Restream, whatever, one of those platforms, Prop Stream, something. He's like, I can get all the old MLS listings. I can put them in there. They'll scrub it. And then the AI caller calls out. They can do 200 calls a day. And then it goes into RE Simply, who we had Shrod on here talking about RE Simply. My brother's really figured out the back end to it. And he's like, dude, it's really powerful. And the leads populate there. And then he goes in and he figures out which ones he needs to call back. And that's it. So for $500 a month plus RE Simply, for $1,000 a month, this dude's in business and he's already closed 2 $40,000 deals, right? So
wait, real quick. So the AI software calls the seller and just see if they're interested in selling their house. And then in essence, they just have a quick script and it'd be like, okay, well, let me.
No, they got predetermined scripts for like, you're trying to sub to, you're trying to call expired listings, you're trying to do this, you're trying to do that. So he did all expired MLS listings because he's trying to sub to, and he just ran them through that call list of the script that they already have predetermined. But you can customize it. But the goal is to, and at the end, they can get you to live ring to a human if the lead's that hot, if you pay for the upgraded package.
But if not, he just has to call the people back and then sell them. Like how far did they go?
Pretty much to the point, like, hey, what's your, like you could do like a pain point. You could do a pain point setup. So like, hey, Jason, you're interested in selling your house, blah, blah, blah. I'm sick and tired of this place. Well, why are you so sick and tired of it? And it tells you all these things. And at the end, be like, the AI, you could see the script, and all the script drops into RE Simply, and it's just like, yeah. And at the end, it's like, well, hey, is it okay if my manager reaches out to you, or my boss, whatever you put in there, and the person will say yes or no, and then you call them back and you say, hey, my, Julie from my office called you, and she mentioned that you were interested in selling your house. I was reading the notes. I see all your pain points. What would you be willing to take for it? Right? Like, they get you so queued up, ready to go. So I think it's really interesting. And I think it's probably the way of the future.
Yeah, it's interesting. We should talk further about that. That's an interesting.
We need to. I think the better way to do it is we need to get the sales rep on and really go through it, because how many people cold call, right? Like, and I know there's something to cold calling and seeing, talk, and feeling to people. But you want to do stuff at scale, and you want to get
it's very effective.
It can be, but you also need to follow up. It's a follow-up game, and it takes time. You as a human, it's so hard to pound the numbers in. You get dejected after 5 calls. AI is ringing 200 people at the same time. It can process 200 phone calls at the same time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that's an interesting concept as all, because I think originally when ChatGPT came out and stuff like that, I think a lot of people thought that it would just replace copywriting, image creations, and it does. But at the same time, like, in a perfect world, what I wanted to do was like, hey, let's just create lots of different blog posts and SEO a site and turn them into articles and blah, 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 blah. But like, I don't know if that's not the most effective thing to do as well. And
speaking to you, because I know the thought, I don't mean to cut you off, because I know part of your thought, let's expand on this, was how do we take this podcast, download the transcript, build it into like an AI generated podcast, so that maybe we don't have to do every single one, or they get different formats of this. I saw Dan Henry was on someone's podcast, and the guy was like, how many social media channels? He's like, how many Dan Henry channels are there? He's like, 1 on like every platform. The guy's like, you need 10. He's like, you could get 5,000 views on one channel, or you could get 2,500 views on 10 different channels. This way you get more eyeballs from different ways in. I thought that was interesting, and it kind of reminded me when you brought that up that, like, I do think there's a day and time that you type something in the ChatGPT, it turns it into a podcast. It sounds like you.
Well, it already is. That day is already. I mean, and that's what we talked about. And what?
Where it's acceptable.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's like, cool. Let's create a podcast episode of, the benefits of using hard money lending as a real estate investor, right? And 10-minute video, and it's conversational. I mean, I showed you that one notebook, AI notebook thing that Google bought, or whatever it was called, and that was legit. And like, they had the ums and the ahs and the this, and I don't know if you could change the voices, but like, you can like, it's there, it's out there. It's just a matter of, if that's the direction you want to go. I mean, I'll tell you from experience, because I've tried to create SEO friendly blog posts and web copy for some of our websites in a few different niches, and it's close and it's there. And the difference is, and during the Chris Sacca episode, when he was interviewed by Tim Ferriss, which is phenomenal, I highly recommend it. It's 3.5 hours long. He was like, right now I can, you can kind of tell, but in a few years from now, you won't be able to tell. Like right now, it's like, hey, this is clever. I know that somebody used some enhancements from generative AI, but like in a few years, it's going to be too good that I'm not going to know. And people will just retain and get their knowledge through different types of sources. One other thing on ChatGPT from that episode, it was really interesting, is Chris Sacca was talking about he I don't want to say he doesn't listen to books anymore, but he does a lot of listening through reading when he's like hiking. But he was like, a lot of the times now, all I do is I listen from ChatGPT. Before I start my hike, I put in what I want to learn about into ChatGPT, and I talk to ChatGPT back and forth of like, hey, what are the top 10, blah, 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 blah. Oh, cool. Expand on this one. And like, he's just having a conversation with ChatGPT.
Yeah, I haven't gotten to that next level of like digging into the GPTs. Like I saw one this morning, I was going to screenshot and send to you, but you're probably tenfold ahead of me, is like Canva and ChatGPT integrate now, where you can literally put the info and push it over, but you need to enter into the premium subscription. I haven't mentally been able to do it yet. I think there's a day here in the very near future. And I think a lot of it comes down to of how much do you want to hire talent to continue to do stuff for you, and how much do you want to continue to do on your own. And I think there's a day that you're going to want to empower your employees to be able to utilize this software as well. So I don't know, man. It's going to be interesting. I don't really know what's going to happen long term, but we're here.
All right. So we talked a lot about AI on this episode so far. Just run down your list of softwares, maybe like 10 softwares you guys use inside your business related to property management, bookkeeping, accounting, and communication with employees, email, things like that, just to give some good value add to our listeners and viewers, just to see if there's software out there that they're not currently utilizing.
Okay. If you're in business, you need to have bookkeeping. Like that is non-negotiable. Accounting, that all lives inside of QuickBooks. Investor management's on InvestNext, because they don't necessarily need to see all the reports, but they need to be communicated with. Our property management software, if we're doing it in-house, is on AppFolio. We'll tag all this stuff in the show notes. Now, some of the other property management companies we utilize, they use Buildium, they use MRI, they use Yardi, right? For communication with employees, it varies. Our core essential core is still via text. That's the best way to communicate. If I want someone to remind me to do something, it has to land in my inbox. I use Google Calendar to organize a lot of my life for the most part. For our remote employees, like our VAs, Mary, Rowena, hey, what's up? We use WhatsApp to communicate. I find that to be very good. It's not necessarily a software, but to hire a lot of the web developers, the SEO, the assistants. I've been using Upwork. I know I was hot on onlinejobs.ph, but honestly, Upwork's been a better quality of people as of recent.
Agreed. That's what I think too. Okay.
Yeah. And then finally, let's see what else. I think that's pretty much everything I use on a day-to-day. Oh, we use StreamYard. That's a web-based software. That's how we do this podcast here. And then finally, in some of our other businesses, we're utilizing Shopify. If you're selling a physical product, Shopify has been a great platform to run that website. And our personal websites still run on ClickFunnels, integrated into Klaviyo for our email database management, or our CRM. So that's pretty much everything we use on a pretty regular basis. Can't really think of much else. How about you, Jay? What do you? Let's hear your rundown.
So you might have to help me along if I.
Okay, accounting.
At least about, because we have a lot. So accounting for obviously loan servicing, we use something called the Mortgage Office that has accounting built in for our loan portfolio. And then I also have, 10 licenses for QuickBooks Online.
Okay. So, all right, Mortgage Office is like our property management software, and Mortgage Office is for you. Everybody seems to use QuickBooks. I know Xero's out there, and a couple other ones are making moves. How about for CRM? Where's your email database CRM live?
So we're still using Infusionsoft Keep. We, not that I'm so tied into Infusionsoft that I can't ever go anywhere else, but like we have a lot going on in there. And like, it's not just email database that gets sent out 3+ times a week, but it's also web forms, email, not just broadcasts, but like email automations, text messages, stuff. Like there's a lot of stuff that lives in Infusionsoft. So
okay. And then, yeah, no, that would be a tough one for you to move for website, because I know you've kind of dug into the next level.
So we just redid our Hard Money Bankers website, and it's on a newer theme on WordPress. You know, I've got 1,000+ back pages, so it's hard for us to get away from WordPress. I certainly can do it elsewhere. And I also have ClickFunnels Classic and ClickFunnels 2.0. That was a change on some of our web assets that we're increasing. Is you know, I've had some FOMO about this ClickFunnels 2.0 because I've been on ClickFunnels Classic since over 10 years at this point. It's been before Funnel Hacking Live. It was right when it came live. So, you know, I had a beta account early on, and they haven't done any upgrades on that, just on the new one. I had a good amount of FOMO. And I mean, we could do a whole breakdown and rundown episode on that because I've dug into that hard over the last month. And it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. I don't really need to utilize a lot of the stuff that they have, but currently, or I was paying $297 a month for just the classic. And then I got on the $97 a month, which is sufficient on the current ClickFunnels 2.0. And I think I can downgrade the old one to the $97 one. So in essence, I'll have both and it'll still be cheaper.
There you go. And the final one is, because I don't know if a lot of people know, but you have multiple offices here in the quad state, 5-state area. How do you communicate with all your offices and keep everyone in communication? Because your team's pretty big. You got between loan officers or whatever you call them, people who run other offices, your back office. How you guys all communicating?
Yeah, I mean, it's through Google platforms. I mean, we don't have any, you know,
so like GChat,
project management stuff. So like we have Google Sheets and pipelines and workflows and stuff like that, and everyone can see in real time what's going on and on anything, right? Because you know we have outbound links to things inside individual folders. So all of our loans are set up on Google Drive, and then there's links to, you know, documents associated with that. And then, you know, we'll use, you know, even if we don't see anybody on a daily basis, we use email and we use GChat a lot. So like inside GChat, I've got individual contacts, and then I have group contacts. So it could be like me and Chris, or it could be me, Chris, and Terry, or it could be me, Chris, Terry, and Ian, or it could be me, Chris, Ian, Josh, Ryan, or it could be this or that. Like, so I got lots of different variations of that. And chat's been very, very, very simple. And if you're inside GChat, you know, there's a lot of, customizable, you know, things related to chat. One of the things I really like about GChat recently is anytime somebody shares a Google Doc with you, it pings you in GChat. I don't know if you have that set up or not, but it's freaking awesome. And like, I like that. And I like that a lot because then I live kind of in that chat. And also the cool part about chat is like the search functionality and the features. So we thought about doing something else. I mean, I use Monday.com for project management for freelancers and outsourced content people. And I even use that for like my to-do list. And I break it down of like today's tasks, you know, short-term tasks and then long-term tasks. Yeah. So like long-term tasks could be like, hey, I'm planning an event for later this year, a short-term task, or like we're building out all this stuff on our website, you know, and like, you know, some things could be like, hey, this page, and those all be subtasks. So I'll organize that way. But as a team, we use Google interface stuff. And I'm kind of like you, where it's like, I'm not great on text message, or like I like email. Like I organize personally based off my email on a regular basis. Like that's a very good tool. So if like somebody sends me something and if I want to be reminded, I put it in my email. If somebody sends me a text and I have like a real hectic day and I'm getting a lot of texts, I hate to say it, but like I might lose.
Yeah,
I might forget it. Like the email to me, email works. And I remember we did this episode in the past related to proper communication. Everybody's different, right? Like younger folks like text or DMs. Like they live on that. They don't want emails. You know, someone that's older might only want a phone call. They definitely don't want a text. They might not even want an email. So I think as a business owner, it's important to know what your employees, your staff, your vendors, your clients, your investors, how they want to be communicated with. I think that's just a quick tip that I've learned from as well. And that's why when I'm following up from somebody, I'll typically shoot them an email, a text, and a phone call, all of the above, and see what works.
And then however they decide to communicate with you, you get to communicate with them. But the important part is you have the one platform on the back end to be able to communicate from that fashion. File storage for us is on Dropbox. I'm assuming you're Google Drive.
So I got Dropbox box and Google Drive. So
he's got all.
So
Jay's got all.
So the majority of the stuff is on Google Drive, but it's funny. All of our content is actually on Box. That's where we keep our content, is there. Yeah. Just because I don't know, it gives me a little bit more flexibility on it. And I also had it there. And then the reason I have a Dropbox account is so many people share stuff with me on Dropbox that like I kind of just have to have an account.
Yeah, it's cheap enough. I mean, look, it's cheap enough.
But like Google Drive, when you have multiple users, is expensive.
It all is. Actually, Dropbox I guess they got bought by Google. Sorry.
They did?
Yeah, because it's all integrated now. Dropbox is integrated to Google, and now they have Teams, and you got to pay for seats. And before, I used to be able to share you a file folder, but it only counted against my storage. But now it's your storage. It's a goddamn mess. So
yeah, and I mean, yeah, and like here's the thing. Like here's a downfall with Google is you want to obviously protect your files, but like if you're sharing them with somebody that doesn't have a Google account, they can't access it unless you. Make it a public file. So like there's a lot of pros and cons to all of it, but the important part is to have a real system in place and, stick to it. So, I mean, I've got a lot of different softwares. I mean, Zapier, I'm happy to share whatever I have. It's hard for me to think about some of these things.
Yeah. No, I mean, we've been going for a hot minute, and I think people get the point. You're always going to try something. If you have any softwares that you're using that we didn't talk about, drop them in the comments because we'd love to learn more. Not that I need any more, but you just never know. Like I got introduced to Monday. I could use Monday if somebody sets it up for me, but I'm not good at setting it up, and I think that's what's important. You need to figure out not only how you communicate properly, but how you organize your tasks. And for us to do this show consistently, right? It's all done through Calendly. Like today, we're recording this show. The guests had to change. They just hit the reschedule link and they moved the date out. That's fine. Me and Jason got a notification immediately. I said, hey, Jay, our guest canceled today. What do you want to talk about? And boom, here we are. So again, having the automations, having the software, having and you don't need to do it day one. Don't waste your time sitting there trying to plan out what softwares you're going to use to build your business, and then the softwares will show yourself of what you need to implement. And eventually you'll get sick enough. And that's one of the ways we made this podcast so consistent is because why? Because I finally said I had enough because Jay and I, who are we getting this week? It was always last minute. Whereas I said, let's set up a Calendly link. Let's set it up. Let's only record on a certain day of the week. Boom, here we are. And now we do it much more consistent. I mean, I saw we're booked out till the end of June for podcasts. So that's super exciting.
Let's go.
Yeah, dude, I'm trying to maybe going into next year, we can book the whole year ahead of time. It's pretty cool to see. So, but I mean, that's it. I think we've shared a lot, and I think there's a lot of good takeaways here that I think people can go and act on. And if you can and you want to share it, again, that'd be the best compliment you can give us. And I think that's it, man.
Cool. Well, I know we got some great guests coming up next week or two. We had a good guest set up for today and had a little family emergency. So, we pivoted, did an episode ourselves, and he'll be back on. He was able to reschedule for another month or so out. So we'll be able to squeeze that in. And again, if there's any guests you want us to interview as well, let us know. If it's somebody that's obviously recommended or someone that, we think could be a good addition, we'll try to squeeze them in here. These are fun for us to do. And I hope everyone listening and watching at home enjoys them. And cool. Any other last words, Ian? We good to go?
No, guys, if you enjoyed this, please feel free to share it, and we'll catch you guys on the next one.
Thanks for tuning in to the Real Estate Reserve podcast. Do us a favor and like, comment, and share our broadcast. It helps the algorithm and helps us spread the word too. Till next time, thank you for tuning in.